Because of one rainy night, I ended up staying under the same roof as an older woman. What seemed harmless quickly turned into a painful misunderstanding, and when she realized it, she went completely silent, frozen in shock. The rain was coming down in the sheets that night, the kind of storm that turns Chicago's bustling streets into deserted rivers. I remember it vividly because it felt like the city itself had decided to wash away all its noise, leaving just the relentless pounding of water against concrete. I'm Ethan, 26 years old, a white guy who's been delivering packages around this town for the past couple of years. I don't make much noise in life, keep my head down, pay my bills, and send whatever's left to my mom back in Ohio. She's been sick for a while now, the kind of illness that drains your wallet faster than your hope. I live in this old apartment building in the heart of the city, a place where the walls are thin and the neighbors are strangers. I'd only been there a few weeks, long enough to know the creaky elevator, but not the faces behind the doors. That evening, I was out late on my last delivery. The order was for some urgent meds to a high-rise across town, and by the time I dropped it off, the sky had opened up like it was trying to drown the world. My motorcycle sputtered and died halfway home, the engine choking on the flood of water. I cursed under my breath, pulling it to the side of the road and starting the long push back. The rain soaked through my jacket in minutes, turning my clothes into a cold, clinging second skin. My sneakers squelched with every step, and by the time I reached the building, I was barefoot, having ditched them to avoid slipping. I just wanted to get inside, dry off, and crash. The power was out when I stepped into the lobby, pitch black, no emergency lights flickering on like they should. The storm must have knocked out the grid. I fumbled for my phone flashlight and made my way to the stairs, dripping water everywhere. The hallway on the 5th floor was even darker, a void that swallowed the beam from my light. I was halfway to my door when I collided with someone, hard enough to knock us both off balance. "Sorry," I blurted, steadying myself against the wall. The figure in front of me was a woman, fumbling with a flashlight and what looked like a lighter. She let out a small gasp, her beam swinging up to my face. "Oh God, you scared me," she said, her voice shaky but composed. In the dim light, I could make out her features, mid-40s maybe, with dark hair pulled back and a face that looked tired but kind. She was wearing a simple blouse and jeans, now damp from the rain that must have caught her too. I'd seen her around the building once or twice. Always polite, the type who held doors for people and smiled at the mail guy. Her name was Sophia, I think, from the mailbox labels. She lived on the 6th floor, worked as an accountant or something officey. Not someone I'd ever spoken to beyond a nod. "Are you okay?" I asked, noticing she was trying to light a candle or something. The hallway smelled like wet carpet and ozone from the storm. "Yeah, just the power's out, and I can't get my door open. The lock's jammed or something. I was stuck in the elevator earlier. Terrifying." She shivered, not just from the cold. "I called the super, but no one's answering." I glanced at the window at the end of the hall. Lightning flashed outside, illuminating the sheets of rain slamming against the glass. "Let me see if I can help," I offered, stepping closer to her door. But before I could even touch the handle, a gust of wind howled through the building like a freight train. The window shattered with a deafening crack, glass exploding inward, shards flying everywhere. Sophia screamed, throwing her arms up. I lunged forward instinctively, shielding her as best I could. Pain sliced through my arm, but it was nothing compared to her cry. When the wind died down, I pulled back and saw blood. Hers streaming from a deep gash on her hand where a shard had caught her. "Oh shit," I muttered, my heart pounding. "You're hurt. Come on, we need to get that bandaged." She clutched her hand, blood dripping between her fingers, her face pale in the phone light. "It stings. Bad." My apartment was right there, door unlocked because I'd forgotten in my rush earlier. "In here," I said, guiding her inside with my good arm. She didn't resist, too shocked to argue. I kicked the door shut behind us, the storm muffled now but still raging outside. Inside, it was just as dark, but I knew where everything was. I sat her on the edge of my couch and grabbed my first aid kit from the bathroom, something I kept stocked for the occasional delivery mishap. My phone flashlight cast long shadows as I knelt in front of her. "Let me see," I said gently. She extended her hand, wincing. The cut was nasty, about 3 inches long across her palm, but not too deep. Blood welled up as I cleaned it with antiseptic wipes. We were both soaking wet, shivering in the chill of the unheated room. Her blouse clung to her skin, and I tried not to notice, focusing on the task. This might hurt, I warned, applying pressure with gauze. She bit her lip, her eyes meeting mine. Thanks. Ethan, right? I've seen you around. Yeah, and you're Sophia? I confirmed, wrapping the bandage carefully. Our hands brushed more than necessary, the intimacy of the moment hanging heavy in the air. The rain hammered the windows like it was trying to break in, thunder rumbling like distant artillery. Once done, I stood up, awkward. You should stay here until the storm passes. Your door's probably still jammed, and with the glass out there, it's not safe. She nodded, rubbing her arms. I don't want to impose, but yeah, I don't think I can get back up there alone right now. I boiled water on my camp stove, thank God for backups, and made us some ginger tea to warm up. We sat by the window, the city lights flickering faintly through the downpour when lightning struck. The silence stretched, broken only by the storm. You live alone? She asked eventually, sipping her tea. Yeah, moved here for work. Quiet life. I hesitated, then opened up a bit. Something about the darkness made it easier. My mom's sick back home. Cancer. I send money when I can, but it's never enough. Lost my last job because I didn't have references. Story of my life. Her eyes softened. I'm sorry. My son's away at college. Barely calls. My ex, he left for someone younger, started a new family. My parents are too wrapped up in their own world to check in. Sometimes it feels like I'm just existing. We talked like that for hours, sharing fragments of our lives that we probably wouldn't in daylight. The vulnerability was raw, the storm amplifying every word. As the night deepened, I offered her the couch and grabbed a blanket for the floor. No, you take the couch, she insisted, pulling a spare blanket over herself on the armchair. But around 2 a.m., the wind howled louder, rain lashing like bullets. I got up to check the door, make sure it was secure. When I came back, she was sitting up, huddled by the window, her shoulders shaking, not from cold, but tears. Sophia? I whispered, approaching slowly. She wiped her eyes. It's nothing, just the storm. And everything else. I sat on the edge of the armchair, close but not touching. You're not alone tonight. She looked at me, her voice barely audible over the rain. If it's too lonely tonight, could you sit a little closer? Just for a bit? My heart raced. I shifted nearer, our arms brushing. We didn't speak after that, just listened to the storm, the world shrinking to this room, this moment. The tension built, the unspoken pull between us, the line we were towing. It felt dangerous, electric, like the lightning outside. But in that darkness, with the rain as our only witness, it also felt right. For the first time in years, I didn't feel so alone. The morning light filtered through the blinds in thin, gray streaks, pulling me out of a shallow sleep. The storm had finally quieted sometime before dawn, leaving behind a damp hush that clung to everything. I blinked awake on the couch, my neck stiff from the awkward position, and glanced over to the armchair. Sophia was still there, curled under the blanket, her breathing steady and soft. For a moment, I just watched her, the way her hair fell across her face, the bandage on her hand peeking out. Last night felt like a dream, one of those fragile ones that evaporates if you think too hard about it. But it was real. We'd talked until the words ran out, sat close until the silence felt like its own kind of comfort. Nothing more but enough to shift something inside me. The power hummed back on suddenly, the fridge kicking to life, the clock on the wall blinking 6 a.m. Sophia stirred, her eyes fluttering open. She sat up slowly, rubbing her face, and gave me a small, tentative smile. Morning, power's back. Yeah, I said, standing up and stretching. Storm's over. Let me check the hallway, see if it's safe out there. I cracked the door open. The corridor was a mess. Shards of glass scattered like confetti, water pooled in spots from leaks. But the super and a couple of maintenance guys were already out there, sweeping up and taping plastic over the broken window. One of them, an older guy named Mike who'd nodded at me in the lobby before, looked up as I stepped out. Hey kid, you hear that crash last night? Whole pane went out. You okay in there? Before I could answer, Sophia emerged behind me, still wrapped in my blanket, her hair tousled and the bandage visible on her hand. She had my jacket draped over her shoulders. I must have given it to her at some point. Mike's eyes flicked between us, his broom pausing mid-sweep. Another resident, an elderly woman from down the hall, poked her head out of her door, her expression sharpening. "We're fine," Sophia said quickly, her voice steady but her cheeks flushing. "Thanks for checking." Mike nodded slowly, but I caught the way his gaze lingered. "Good. We'll get this cleaned up. Stay safe." We headed to the elevator together, her to go up to her floor, me just to see her off. As the doors closed, a couple more neighbors piled in, their whispers starting almost immediately. "Was that?" one murmured. "From his place?" another replied under her breath. Sophia stared at the floor numbers lighting up, her posture rigid. I wanted to say something, but the words stuck in my throat. When we reached the 6th floor, she stepped out without looking back. "Thanks for everything, Ethan, really." "No problem," I managed. The door shut and she was gone. I didn't think much of it at first. Storms happen. People help each other. But by the time I got back to my apartment and checked my phone, the group chat for the building, something I'd been added to when I moved in, was blowing up. Messages pinged in rapid fire. "Did anyone else hear about the glass breaking last night? Super said it was bad on 5. Yeah, and I saw that quiet guy from 5B with the lady from 6A coming out together this morning. Looked cozy." "Cozy?" She had his jacket on, and her hand was bandaged. "What happened in there?" "She's the accountant, right? Divorced lady, always keeps to herself. Now hanging with the delivery kid?" Bold. Someone had even snapped a photo, blurry but clear enough. Us stepping into the elevator, her in my blanket, me hovering close. It was attached to the chat with a winking emoji. My stomach dropped. This wasn't just gossip. It was twisting last night into something cheap. Something it wasn't. I scrolled through, my face heating up. More comments piled on. "Gotta hand it to her, going for the young ones after the divorce." "Kid's probably half her age, what a story." I slammed my phone down, pacing the room. How had a simple act of kindness turned into this? I thought about Sophia, alone up there, probably seeing the same messages. Would she blame me? By afternoon, the whispers had spilled offline. I ran into the elderly woman in the lobby while grabbing my mail. She gave me a sidelong glance, her lips pursed. "Stormy night, huh? Hope everyone stayed appropriate." I mumbled something about helping a neighbor and bolted. My phone buzzed again, not the group chat, but a call from my mom. "Ethan? Honey, I got a weird message from your aunt. She lives near Chicago, you know. Said she heard from a friend in your building about some incident. You and an older woman? What's going on?" I froze. How had it spread that fast? "Mom, it's nothing. Just helped someone during the storm. Power was out, glass broke. People are exaggerating." She sighed, that worried tone creeping in. "Just be careful. Rumors like that can stick. You're young. Don't get tangled in something messy." Hanging up, I felt a knot in my chest. Messy? Last night hadn't felt messy. It felt human. But now, it was tainted. I thought about texting Sophia, but what would I say? Sorry for the gossip? It wasn't my fault, but it felt like it was. The next day, I brewed an extra coffee and left it outside her door like I'd done once before, back when we'd just nodded in passing. A peace offering, maybe. But when I got home that evening, the cup was sitting outside my own door, untouched, no note. My heart sank. She was pulling away. Over the next few days, it got worse. I caught glimpses of her in the hallway, but she'd avert her eyes, hurry past with a quick nod. Once in the elevator, a group of women from the building were chatting loudly. Saw her coming out of his place. Disheveled, you know? At her age? Sophia was there, her face turning from pale to flushed, then back to stone. She got off on her floor without a word. I tried to explain and a note slipped under her door. It wasn't like that. I just wanted to help. No response. The distance grew, a wall built from whispers and assumptions. And the worst part? It hurt more than I expected. Last night had cracked open something in me, a connection I hadn't realized I craved. Now it was slipping away, buried under the weight of what everyone else thought. By the end of the week, I was avoiding the lobby altogether, sticking to the stairs. But the damage was done. The rumors had started the hurt, and now the silence was finishing it. The days blurred into a haze after that morning. I couldn't shake the image of Sophia's face in the elevator, pale, then flushed, her eyes fixed on the floor like she was carrying the weight of every whisper. The group chat had quieted down a bit, but the damage lingered like a bad aftertaste. People in the building gave me knowing looks in the laundry room or the lobby, and I started taking the stairs just to avoid the stares. Work kept me busy, deliveries stacking up, the city traffic a constant grind, but my mind kept drifting back to her. Why did it bother me so much? We'd shared one night, one real conversation. That should have been it, but it wasn't. I felt this pull, like I'd glimpsed something genuine in the storm's chaos, and now it was slipping away because of other people's nonsense. I tried to bridge the gap in small ways at first. Nothing big, nothing that screamed desperation. The hallway lights were still flickering from the power surge, so one evening after my shift, I grabbed my toolbox and fixed them. Replaced a couple of bulbs, tightened the fixtures. I knew she walked that corridor every day to her mailbox. Maybe she'd notice. The next day, I paid the super a little extra to prioritize her door lock repair. He'd mentioned it was on the list, but backed up. I adjusted my delivery schedule too, picking up earlier runs so I'd be home around the time she got off work. Just in case our paths crossed naturally, but they didn't. She was like a ghost. There one second, gone the next. Then came the incident with the kids. It was a Saturday afternoon, the kind where the sun finally broke through the clouds after days of drizzle. I was in my apartment tinkering with my bike's chain when I heard shouting from upstairs. Glass shattered, sharp and sudden. I bolted out the door and up the stairs, heart racing. On the 6th floor, a group of neighborhood teens were scattering, laughing like idiots. They'd been throwing rocks at the building for kicks, and one had smashed right through Sophia's window. Shards littered the hallway outside her door. She was inside. I could hear her moving around. I knocked urgently. "Sophia, you okay in there?" The door opened a crack, her face appearing, pale, eyes wide. "Ethan, what happened?" "Kids being stupid. Broke your window. Let me help clean it up." She hesitated but stepped aside. The living room was a mess, glass everywhere, a cool breeze whipping through the jagged hole. I grabbed a broom from her closet and started sweeping, careful not to miss the tiny pieces. She joined in, but when a shard nicked my forehead, just a scratch, really, she insisted on stopping. "You're bleeding," she said, her voice soft but firm. "It's nothing," I protested, but she led me to her bathroom anyway. She dabbed antiseptic on the cut, her fingers gentle, our faces close in the mirror's reflection. For a second, the awkwardness from that first night returned, the intimacy of care, the unspoken tension. Her eyes met mine briefly, something flickering there. Gratitude? Regret? I couldn't tell. When she finished bandaging it, she stepped back quickly. "Thanks for coming up. I appreciate it." "No problem," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "I'll board up the window if you have plywood or something." She nodded, and we worked in silence after that. When it was done, she didn't say much, just a quiet, "good night" as I left. But the next morning, there was a small bag outside my door, bandages, ointment, and a note that read, "For your head, be careful." No signature, but I knew it was her. It was a crack in the wall she'd built, a tiny gesture that made my chest ache with hope. But hope is fragile. A few days later, another storm rolled in, not as bad as the first, but enough to make the streets slick. I spotted her walking back from the supermarket, arms full of bags, no umbrella. I was just getting home myself, so I grabbed my spare from the bike and jogged over. "Here," I said, holding it out. "You'll get soaked." She looked up, surprise flashing across her face. Rain dripped from her hair, soaking her coat. For a moment, she just stood there, then took the umbrella without a word, tucking it under her arm and turning away. She hurried inside, not even glancing back. I stood in the downpour, feeling like an idiot. Was I pushing too hard? Making it worse? That rejection stung, but I couldn't stop. Another evening, I baked a simple apple pie. Nothing fancy, just something warm from a recipe my mom taught me. I carried it up to her door, the smell filling the hallway. I knocked softly. She opened it after a long pause, her expression guarded. "Ethan, what is this?" "Just pie, thought you might like it. I know things have been rough with the rumors and all. I just want you not to be sad." Her eyes softened for a split second, but then the walls came back up. She took the dish carefully, her voice cool. "Thank you. But we should keep our distance. You're young. Don't let one rainy night ruin your life. What people are saying. Have you thought about that? The looks, the whispers? It's not fair to you. I stood there, stunned. Sophia, I don't care about them. I care about. She cut me off gently. You should. Good night, Ethan. The door closed and I lingered in the hallway, the echo of her words hitting like a punch. Ruin my life? Was that how she saw me? A mistake? A burden? I made it back to my apartment before the tears came, hot and unexpected. I slumped against the door, wiping my face. For the first time, I felt truly like an outsider, not just in the building, but in her world. The distance wasn't just physical anymore, it was a chasm, widening with every failed attempt. And yet, part of me couldn't let go. Not yet. The weight of that conversation on her doorstep lingered like a bruise that wouldn't fade. I replayed her words over and over. Don't let one rainy night ruin your life. Ruin? As if helping her had been some reckless mistake. But deep down, I knew she was protecting me, or maybe herself, from the fallout. The building felt smaller after that, every corner echoing with unspoken tension. I stopped trying the big gestures, sticking to my routines, early deliveries, quiet evenings alone with a book or my bike repairs. But I couldn't stop thinking about her. The way her eyes had softened when she bandaged my head, the brief crack in her armor, it haunted me. A couple of weeks passed in that uneasy limbo. The rumors had simmered down in the group chat, replaced by complaints about the slow repairs or the rising rent. But I knew they weren't gone. They were just underground, waiting for a spark. That spark came on a Thursday afternoon. I was midway through a delivery run, weaving through downtown traffic on my bike, when my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled over at a red light and checked. It was a call from my mom again. She'd been quiet since our last talk, but her voice now was edged with concern. Ethan, I need to talk to you. Your cousin in the city, she heard something from a friend who knows someone in your building. They're saying, well, that you're involved with an older woman there. Sent me a photo even. You two coming out of your place together. What's this about? Are you in trouble? My grip tightened on the handlebars. Mom, it's not like that. I told you, storm, accident, nothing happened. People are just talking crap. But the picture, you look close. Honey, at your age, you don't need complications. What if it affects your job, or worse? I swallowed hard, the light turning green. I'll handle it. Love you. I hung up, my mind racing. How far had this spread? If it reached my family outside the city, what was it doing to her? By the time I finished my shift, another storm was brewing, dark clouds rolling in, the air thick with impending rain. I headed home early, my thoughts on Sophia. What if the gossip had hit her harder? As I approached the building, fat drops started falling, turning the sidewalk slick. I spotted her then, hurrying from the bus stop, her coat pulled tight, no umbrella again. She looked exhausted, her shoulders slumped. I wanted to call out, but held back, remembering her words about distance. Inside the lobby, it was crowded, residents milling about, chatting as they checked mail or waited out the rain. Sophia entered right after me, shaking water from her hair. Our eyes met for a split second, hers widening in surprise before she looked away. But as she moved toward the elevators, I overheard it. A cluster of women near the mailboxes, not even trying to whisper. Look, there she is, one said, nodding toward her. The accountant from 6. Heard she spent the night with that young delivery guy during the storm. At her age? Desperate much? Another laughed softly. Yeah, printed out the photo from the chat. Sent it around the office, her office, I mean. My sister works there, said everyone's buzzing. Sophia, got any tips for snagging the young ones? Poor thing looked like she wanted to disappear. My blood ran cold. They were talking about her workplace? I glanced at Sophia. She'd frozen mid-step, her face draining of color. The women hadn't noticed her yet, but she had heard every word. Her hand trembled as she clutched her bag, tears welling up. She turned abruptly, heading for the stairs instead, but in her haste she slipped on the wet floor, stumbling into the wall with a soft thud. That was it. Something snapped inside me, the weeks of silence, the hurt, the injustice of it all. I forgot about keeping distance, forgot about the stairs. I strode over to her, helping her steady herself. Sophia, wait. The lobby fell quiet, eyes turning our way. She looked up at me, tears mixing with rain on her cheeks, her voice a whisper. Ethan, please, not here. But it was too late. The women noticed their smirks fading into awkward silence. One of them, the ringleader I guessed, held up her phone like evidence. Oh, speaking of… I turned to face them, my voice louder than I'd planned, echoing off the tiled walls. What the hell is wrong with you people? That night, a window shattered, she got hurt, power out? Yeah, she stayed in my place because it wasn't safe out there. I bandaged her hand, we talked through the storm. That's it. No scandal, no desperate anything. Everyone needs help sometimes, even if it's just sitting through the rain with someone. But you twisted into this? Spreading photos, gossiping at her job? You're the ones making it messy. The room went dead silent. A few residents shifted uncomfortably, avoiding my gaze. The woman with the phone lowered it, mumbling something about just joking. Others turned away, heading for the elevators like they suddenly had somewhere to be. Mike the super, who'd been fixing a light nearby, nodded approvingly but stayed out of it. Sophia clung to my arm, her grip tight, tears streaming now. Ethan! I guided her toward my apartment, away from the prying eyes. The rain pounded outside as we stepped inside, the door clicking shut behind us. She sank onto the couch, burying her face in her hands. They sent the photo to my office. Everyone's talking. My boss even asked if I was okay. I left early, couldn't take it. I knelt in front of her, my own hands shaking from the adrenaline. I'm sorry, I should have said something sooner. But it's not your fault, or mine. We didn't do anything wrong. She looked up, her eyes searching mine. But it hurts. The way they see me, like some desperate widow chasing youth. And you're young, Ethan. This could follow you. I don't care, I said fiercely, taking her hand, the bandaged one from that first night. Let it. What happened that night? It meant something to me. More than just help. And if facing them means we can talk again, then screw the rumors. She squeezed my hand back, a small sob escaping. The storm outside raged on, but in here, something shifted. The confrontation had cracked the distance wide open, exposing the raw hurt beneath. But it also pulled us closer, forcing us to face the truth. Whatever this was, it wasn't going away, not anymore. After that confrontation in the lobby, something shifted, not just between us, but in the air of the building itself. The whispers didn't vanish overnight, but they dulled, like echoes fading in an empty hall. People avoided our eyes in the elevators, the group chat pivoted to mundane complaints about parking spots and leaky faucets. Maybe my outburst had shamed them enough to back off, or perhaps they just got bored. Either way, the storm of gossip passed, leaving behind a fragile calm. Sophia and I didn't talk about it right away. That afternoon, after I'd guided her into my apartment and we'd dried off from the rain, she just sat on the couch, staring at her bandaged hand. I made tea again, ginger like that first night. And we drank in silence, the patter of rain on the windows, our only soundtrack. Thank you, she said finally, her voice soft, for standing up for me. For us. I nodded, sitting across from her. I meant every word. We didn't do anything wrong. Her eyes met mine, and for the first time since the morning after the storm, there was no wall there, just raw honesty. No, we didn't. But what now? We didn't define it. Didn't slap a label on whatever this pull was between us. Instead, we fell into a quiet rhythm, one built on small gestures and unspoken understanding. No grand declarations, no public hand-holding, just presence. Mornings, I'd brew an extra coffee and leave it outside her door on my way out for deliveries. By evening, there'd be something waiting for me. A fresh apple, a wrapped sandwich, sometimes a note with a simple, "Take care." Nothing flashy, nothing that screamed romance. But it was there, a thread connecting our days. We started crossing paths more intentionally, without forcing it. On sunny afternoons, if I saw her heading out for a walk, I'd happen to be checking my mail. We'd nod, exchange a few words about the weather or work, and sometimes she'd forget her jacket in the lobby bench. I'd pick it up, carry it for her without a word. Evenings brought us to the stairwell more often than the elevator, away from prying eyes. We'd sit on the steps, listening to the building hum around us, or to the rain when it came again. No deep confessions, just comfortable silence, our shoulders brushing occasionally. It was healing in its simplicity, a way to rebuild without the noise of the world intruding. One night, after a particularly grueling day, me dodging traffic jams, her buried in spreadsheets, we ended up in my apartment again. Not planned, just natural. She'd knock softly, holding a container of soup. "Made too much," she said with a shy smile. We ate at my tiny kitchen table, the conversation meandering from her son's latest college update to my mom's improving health. As the evening wore on, the rain started up outside, tapping insistently at the windows. We moved to the couch, the storm's rhythm pulling us back to that first night. She leaned against the armrest, her eyes distant. If there hadn't been that rain, that blackout, we'd probably still be strangers, wouldn't we? I looked at her, the soft light from the lamp casting shadows on her face. "I don't know, maybe, but I think, even without the storm, I'd have found a reason to stick around. To be there for you." She turned to me, her expression a mix of surprise and warmth. A small smile tugged at her lips, and she reached out, her hand resting lightly on mine. We didn't say more after that, didn't need to. The silence wrapped around us like a blanket, comforting, intimate, without demands. It wasn't passion or fireworks, it was peace. In a city full of hurts and judgments, we'd carved out this space where we could just be. And that's how it stayed. No one in the building talked about us anymore. No dramatic reveals or confrontations. We weren't a couple in the eyes of the world, weren't sneaking around like some forbidden affair. We were just two people who'd found solace in each other, choosing to stay close in the quiet ways that mattered. Mornings with coffee, evenings with shared glances, nights listening to the rain without a word. It was enough. More than enough. In the end, that stormy night didn't define us. It just opened the door. And in the silence that followed, we healed, one small act at a time.